Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to the start of a brand new series on this channel, SilverBytes. This is going to be an unscripted, largely unedited, very easy, casual game discussion show so that I can talk to you about games in a way that is much more topical, because it's really hard to do fresh, new topics on my full Wade Silver Show episodes when they take so long to make. This will also give us something to do, something for me to talk about, and something for you to watch in between the full Wade Silver Show episodes. So, in general, this is just an experiment to see if you guys are interested in this type of content. Feel free to let me know if you are. As you may have guessed or seen in the title and thumbnail, we're going to be talking about the June 18th, 2024 Nintendo Direct today, which is a really interesting one because it's probably going to be the last Switch-focused Direct we ever get. For sure there's going to be Switch games in future Directs, but with a new console on the horizon, odds are the Switch Directs are going to go the way of the dodo so we can start focusing on the new one. And I think that's perfectly fine, but it does leave this Direct in a very interesting situation, because if they show only a few things, then it's like, oh good, they're focusing on the new console, so we don't have to spend a bunch of development resources on the old one. But it's also like, oh, if they don't show much, then there's like nothing coming out for the Switch's final year. So it's like, show a lot, and it's like, oh no, you're taking away from the new console, or don't show much, and it's like, oh, the Switch ends off on a really crappy note. And the way they got around this was seemingly just doing a very normal Direct. This was a very, very normal Direct without much craziness going on, and I guess we just have to talk about all the stuff they showed, right? So the first game they showed was actually a brand new Mario and Luigi game called Mario and Luigi Brothership, and this is very interesting. I think most of us kind of assumed that if Mario and Luigi wasn't completely extinct, it would probably at least be missing for a couple years, but evidently not that long. I mean, it has already been a while. It's crazy to think. Alpha Dream feels like it shut down yesterday, and yeah, they filed for bankruptcy like 5 years ago. So it has actually been a little while since we got one of these, but from what I understand, Alpha Dream was mostly just absorbed into Nintendo when they went under. They just kind of sucked up most of the employees, so it's entirely possible this is being made by the same people. And you know what? I have tried it plenty of times. Specifically Superstar Saga. I have started that game about 8 times, and I have made it more than 2 hours about 0 times. It's just never really been my thing, and yet, I gotta tell ya, I think I'm gonna play this one. It actually looks incredible. This is the first Mario & Luigi that is in 3D. They've all been like top-down 2D games. Maybe top-down, it's not accurate, but they've always been 2D games. They've largely been on handhelds. As far as I know, it's the first 3D one and the first console one, so that's a heck of a 1-2 punch, and I think it just kind of looks great. I mean, it definitely looks like Mario and Luigi, so if there's anything about the franchise that really didn't mesh with you before, it's kind of unlikely that it's going to work here, but I don't think I've necessarily had any sort of friction with Mario and Luigi. It's just always kind of been like, I'm just not fully getting into it. Nothing's pushing me away, it's just that nothing's really pulling me in either, and I would say that is definitively not the case. This one looks pretty darn sweet, and it is coming out on November 7th, 2024, so mark your calendars if you're a Mario and Luigi fan. After Brothership, they talked a bit about the Nintendo World Championships NES Edition game, and, you know, I am probably more likely to enjoy a game like this than most other people. I'm a bit of a retro game player, and boy, I am not really interested in this, so I don't know what that says about the game itself, but it just doesn't really seem that crazy to me. It's just like, oh, we made speedrunning like a gameplay mechanic. You know, they've got the little speedrunning clock down in the corner, and it's just like, it's a fine idea, but I just don't know how much desire I have to actually play it, and it feels like it kind of could have been a mode in like a new NES Remix game rather than its own full game, so it's doubtful that it'll actually be bad or anything, but it doesn't really scream anything out to me other than I'm here, I think, and that is coming out July 18th, 2024. Moving on to a third-party offering, we got a game from the Final Fantasy series creator and the most famous Final Fantasy series composer, Nobuo Uematsu, and this is called FANTASIAN Neo Dimension. I guess this was an Apple Arcade game, which explains why I've never heard of it. And I mean, God, I just gotta say, Apple Arcade. I despise this service with all of my heart. It is just like let's take really cool games and limit them to the smallest audience possible, and then cast them into the void the moment they stop making money. Sega actually made a brand new Choo Choo Rocket game for Apple Arcade, and I was like, I might sign up just to play that because I love Choo Choo Rocket. And by the time I got around to it, it was gone, deleted from the service, and it is now available nowhere. So yeah, Apple Arcade sucks, but this game looks cool enough. It's like a classic JRPG, but in the turn-based battles, you can actually aim where your magic shots go, which is kind of an awesome idea, but this game has one weakness, and that is, there are just too many RPGs. That's coming out this holiday. Hey guys, basketball is being added to Nintendo Switch Sports. Aren't you excited? I can't even wrap my head around this one. This game came out like 2 years ago, and even if it was brand new, I think this is one of the few Nintendo games that I would consider genuinely insulting. This game is an insult. It's an insult to the fans for buying it, especially for $50 or $60, whatever it was. It's an insult to Wii Sports as a series, and I think it's one of few games where I can say Nintendo should genuinely be ashamed of selling this to us. It is just such a passionless content void that I have no interest in discussing it any further. Also, this stupid basketball is coming out in summer. They couldn't even give us a date. They just said summer. Like, this is the stupid golf thing all over again. Like, you don't show this unless it's done. And even if it was done and this game was brand new, I wouldn't care because it sucks. Moving on. So this game is called Mio, M-I-O. And I'm not sure, it says underneath the logo, Memories in Orbit. So is the name Mio or is the name Mio Memories in Orbit? I'm really not sure, but I'll tell you, this game looks pretty as hell. I don't know if this is running on Switch. I would assume Nintendo's guidelines would say if you're showing your game in a Switch presentation, it has to be the Switch version, because this is actually coming to at least Steam as well as Switch. I went ahead and checked on that. And, you know, I cannot take anything away from how absolutely beautiful the game looks. And there's actually a moment where they are, like, going up a wall using their hair like Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2, which was really cool. The Steam store page calls it a Metroidvania. So I'm out. Personally, Metroidvanias are a genre that I just cannot get into no matter how many times I try, but that game's coming out in 2025 if you're interested. I'm going to shout out Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports, not because this is a game to look out for, but just because I am astonished at how bad it looks visually. I think this is just like the ultimate proof that third parties need the Switch 2 way more than Nintendo themselves actually do. And you know what? As bad as the game looks, it's probably going to be more fun than any of the actual Mario Sports offerings on Switch, so put that in your pipe and smoke it. I don't even know. It's coming out sometime in the autumn. And then we have Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. When the treehouse popped up, I had just this brief moment of elation. Just this super excitement that we were getting another Donkey Kong game. And I was kind of just sucked back down to earth when I realized that it was just a port of Returns. I understand why they're doing this, and it's probably worth doing, but it is also just such a bummer, because it's just like, okay, I think that kind of makes it official. We are going the Switch's entire life without a new Donkey Kong game. Unless you count Mario vs. Donkey Kong, I guess, but you shouldn't, so there's that. I mean, the game looks good. That's kind of the thing about it, is it doesn't even look as good as Tropical Freeze, and it's like, you can't even put in the effort to do that. You know, like, that was a Wii U game. And I just feel like it's very, like, not visually touched up, which is a big bummer, but I still think it is something that is worth us getting, because there was kind of this weird dichotomy with Returns before where you had two versions, Wii and 3DS, and they both had severe issues. The Wii version was like looked pretty nice. It was up on your big screen TV, but you had to shake the stupid Wii remote in order to play the game, which just kind of sucks for a platformer, and I just think it was generally a bad idea. But then you have the 3DS version, which is like, oh, it's got all this extra content and you can play it with buttons. But I think it was like half the frame rate, and it was on this tiny 500p 3DS screen, so it wasn't exactly perfect either. So it is at least nice that this is going to be a definitive version of the game, but it's just kind of a disappointment because I really wanted a new one, or for this to look like really good, and I didn't really get either. I'm sure it'll still be fun. It's still, again, going to be the best way to play these games, but it was a little bit of a bummer. And then I was just sucked even further into the pit when they announced that this is not coming out until January 2025. We got like 7 months? What? Like, what are you talking about? They keep doing this. They just did it with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, where they give us these, like, I'm not even gonna call them remasters, I'm just gonna call them ports, because they look so bad. And, like, the game doesn't look bad, I'm over-exaggerating, but, like, it's basically a port. It doesn't really look that good. And then it's coming out, like, 6 months to a year later. Nintendo, please, we gotta be done with this. If you're giving us a game like this, where it's just like, oh yeah, it's an existing game, it looks passable, it needs to come out, like, within a month. Like, 2 months at the absolute most. I don't know what they're thinking there, so... It's weird to say that this was both exciting and a disappointment at the same time, but that is how I feel about Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. Next up, we've got the Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake, which is very cool. I'm very glad that HD 2D has really caught on as a thing, and I'm glad that they're using it to remake old RPGs like Dragon Quest, because Dragon Quest is a very important RPG series. It's also, like, the most basic RPG series, and so it's never super appealed to me. It's just not, like, I feel like if I'm gonna put all the hours into playing a JRPG, I'm probably gonna pick one a little more interesting than Dragon Quest. I don't know if that makes me a bad person. It's quite possible. I also don't know if it makes me a bad person to say, I don't think it, like, looks that good. It doesn't look bad or anything. I'm not trying to tell you that the game looks ugly. I think there's just, like, something about the lighting or the art style. I feel like HD 2D games, they only really look good to me when they're, like, dark or super bloom heavy. And, like, you have games like Octopath and Triangle Strategy that do that, and this is not really doing either, so I don't really think it looks incredible. Also, why in the world is HD 2D Remake in the name? What is Square Enix's deal with game titles? You don't put that in the title. I think Triangle Strategy is probably still the worst game title maybe ever, so it doesn't quite cross that, but it is definitely not something that should be in the title. And this is going to release November 14th, 2024. I'm very happy for anyone who's super interested in Dragon Quest. That's not personally me, but it's pretty cool to see regardless. And I also should mention, we are also, they announced, getting remakes of Dragon Quest 1 and 2, which I believe that's like a trilogy. Like 3 comes before 1 comes before 2. This could be misinformation. I just got this off the internet, but we are also getting remakes of 1 and 2 seemingly in a pack in 2025. So that's pretty cool. We got some new games coming to the Switch Online expansion pack this time around. I think they tend to do that in most directs, but this time it's actually a pretty cool selection. In addition to Metroid Zero Mission, which is like, sure. On the Game Boy Advance app, we also get Zelda 4 Swords, which is very cool because that is a game that is, like, impossible to get the full experience on because it's a Game Boy Advance game and you need 4 players to get the full experience, so it's very cool that you're going to be able to just play that one online now. We also have additions to the Nintendo 64 and Nintendo Switch Online Mature 17 Plus app that I didn't know existed. Did that exist before this Direct, or is that a new thing? I have literally no idea, but we're getting Turok Dinosaur Hunter and Perfect Dark, which Perfect Dark is pretty cool. I personally have no attachment to any of these 4 games that are being added. I like dinosaurs, and that's kind of it. But yeah, I don't especially care about any of these. It's cool to see 4 Swords. If you have the Switch Online expansion pack, then pick these up. I don't. So then we got the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics, which I really don't have anything to say about, except for I feel morally obligated to shout it out because we are getting Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the Switch, which that's just one of the most, like, legendary games, period. That's just one of those games that even if you've never played it, you know MVC2. You know we're gonna take you for a ride, you know? Like, it's just one of those things where I think for a lot of people this was like a miracle, that they thought this would never happen, and it's happening with online play, rollback netcode they announced. Very cool to see, even if I will eternally be not good at fighting games and probably not play them, but you gotta give some respect to such an iconic game making it to modern systems. And now is the time for me to be gross, because I am a creature, and this is my game of the show. We got Super Mario Party Jamboree announced. And boy, if you have been around this channel any amount of time, you probably know how much I adore almost every Mario spin-off game. I am just like the Mario spin-off whore, and I cannot get enough of Mario Party. And Mario Party in particular is so special because it is a franchise that has just, in my opinion, sucked complete doo-doo ass since like 2008. I don't even know if there was one in 2008. I know that Hudson Soft rounded out, the original developer of Mario Party, rounded out their tenure with the series with Mario Party DS in 2007, and in my opinion, that was the last good one. I know there are fans of the Switch entries. I just think those games have such an embarrassing dearth of content, and especially in Super Mario Party's case, quality content, that it's just like, they're shameful, they're embarrassing. They are certainly better than the old ones, but like, I will just quote myself here. I mean, yeah, Super is better than the ones with the cars, but that's like saying, oh, thank you for spitting in my food instead of murdering me. Right off the bat, they show us what I assume is going to be the big character roster, and we see 20 characters, which is just instantaneously like, just up yours, Superstars, with your stupid 10 character roster bullshit. That was something that pissed me off so bad about Superstars, was that they just cut down the character roster to this pathetically small amount for literally no reason. I don't know if they like even if you wanted to argue they cut it down to make it more like the N64 game, the N64 game had like 6 characters, so they still had more. So like, what are we doing? It didn't make any sense, and this is the kind of stuff that made me hate ND Cube for all these years, because they would do things like this where I'm just like, literally what you're doing does not make even a remote amount of sense, and it seems like they may have finally realized Mario Party is a formula. It just needs like fun gimmicks, and it needs fun boards, and it needs a good amount of boards, because guess what? Guess what? In addition to 20 characters, including costumes, alternate colors for Shy Guy Toad and all that, we got 7 boards. The boards have been the absolute bane of Mario Party's existence. Island Tour, straight boards, straight path with no alternate paths to diverge. Ruined everything. Star Rush, this one stupid board that doesn't even function in any unique way or have any visual theme that is remotely nice to look at all. Ruined the game. Top 100, just straight up reuse the board from Star Rush. Ruined the game. Just like constant. Mario Party 9 or 10, you're in the car, straight line, ruin the game. Super Mario Party, grid-based boards that are all ugly, no unique themes, small-ass boards, ruin the game. Like, it's just like non-stop. And yet, finally, in Super Mario Party Jamboree, brand new boards that actually look good. Brand new boards that actually look like the classic boards. I like wrote them down because I was getting so excited. We've got a board where there's a big old wiggler in the middle, and he has board spaces on his back, so then he'll walk around in a circle, and it will like create different paths. Like, oh, on this turn, I'm gonna be able to hop on Wiggler's back and make it to the top part of the track, or top part of the board, but then on this turn, he's gonna be over here, so I'm gonna be able to go from the top right down to the bottom right. What a good idea. And then you got one where you're racing in cars. So like they brought back the cars, but it's not this stupid gimmick where you're all in a car going in a straight line. It's just like a small gimmick on top of the normal board play, where you're in a car, and I assume the way you get stars will probably be different. My guess is going to be that it's like, every time you complete a lap, then you have the option to buy a star, or something like that. That's my assumption of how that board's gonna be gimmickized, but that's fine. We need gimmick boards. We don't want them to all be basic. We just want them to all be good. And that is something we have not had for a very, very long time. We've got a cool board with changing water levels. So like if it's high, some spaces are going to be covered, and I presume you just can't go that way. You'll be stuck on one side of the board. Visually, really reminds me of Mario Party 6, one of the boards from that game, which is fine. I'm not really too worried about a reuse of themes. I just want the games to be good. I'm like, you know, I would be fine with Superstar's reuse of content if it just had more content. With all reused boards, it should have had like 10, and yet they had 5. It just pisses me off so much. I could just go off on these games forever. And we even got a board that takes place in a mall, which, if Coconut Ball is anything to go off of, Mario fans love malls, so I hope there's a Wetzel's Pretzels. They said we got over 110 minigames, which I think is like the most that any normal Mario Party game has ever had, which is very cool. Again, minigames are one of those things that I think is just kind of more the merrier. You know, sometimes it's like, oh, well, if you have too many of this thing, then it creates like a choice problem. I don't really think that's the case in Mario Party. I think you could throw in as many minigames as physically possible, and I don't think I'd really have an issue with that. Maybe if I thought about it harder I would, but right now, I'm just riding the high of actually enjoying a Mario Party game. And I think the reason we're getting more, by the way, Super Mario Party had this horribly stupid thing where there was a bunch of motion minigames, and so the only way you could play the game was with a single Joy-Con on its side, which actually I think means that you can't play Super Mario Party on the Switch Lite, which is like, what are you doing? And everyone hated that, so this time they have confirmed you can use a Pro Controller, third-party controllers, all that stuff, but if you use something that is not a Joy-Con, then all of the motion-controlled minigames will just turn off. You won't be able to get them if someone is not using the proper controller, which I think is fair enough. I hope it's not too many. I'm kind of worried that it's going to be like 40. And so it's like, oh, so if you want to use a normal controller, you're actually playing a Mario Party game with significantly fewer minigames, but hopefully they won't do that. Because they had said those motion minigames will not appear online, which presumably is because Switch Online, or Switch Lite players will be online and won't be able to... I gotta twist my system backwards in order to fit the cube into the slot. They're not going to do that, so I assume that's why we're getting more minigames. We also have the new Koopathlon mode, I think it's Koopathlon, which is a 20-player multiplayer mode, where it seems that you just complete minigames, and then each coin you earn in a minigame contributes to one space moved on the board, which is like, any opportunity to play the same old minigames in a new way is appreciated, and apparently they said there are even more modes that they haven't shown off, so there is plenty for them to still show us in the build-up to release. That release, by the way, is October 17th, 2024, and it can't come soon enough. Oh my god, I didn't even mention the boards. Oh my god, I mentioned the new boards. I didn't even mention the old boards. I've lost my mind, ladies and gentlemen. I've actually lost my mind, both talking about Super Mario Party Jamboree and sitting in this 150-degree room that I am just dying in. It is so goddamn hot in this stupid state. You could probably see the poster flashing because I have my fan on and is still way too hot. We're actually getting 2 retro boards in this game. We're getting one from Mario Party 1, that being Mario's Rainbow Castle, which they're going to have to do, I think, some serious rework on, because I don't remember that being a very good board. And we're also getting Western Land from Mario Party 2, which is a fantastic board, although it is absolutely huge, which gives me the confidence that we're not going back to the 6-point dice blocks from Super Mario Party. I think we're definitely going to stick with 10, because these boards would be untraversable with only 6 on your dice block, so that not only do I get boards back, but it kind of gives me a little reassurance that this game is going to be good. I guess they also did say on the race car board you can move up to 40 spaces, so I assume that's 4 dice blocks at 10 apiece. So I guess they already kind of did confirm that. I'm just rambling at this point, dude. This game looks awesome. I never thought I would be excited about a Mario Party game again, and I am so happy to have been wrong about that fact. If this one comes out, give it a day or two, look at the reviews, and if it is even remotely good, please buy this. Please tell them that games like this are what Mario Party needs. It's what we want out of Mario Party, because like I said, this looks good. There is still the chance that it could have some of the worst parts of Super Mario Party and be bad, but in general, I'm riding high. This is gonna be incredible. And then we got The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. Now, you might be surprised, because if you've been around anything I've done for a long time, you may know I don't really like Zelda. I like approximately 1.5 Zelda games, with those being Breath of the Wild, and I half like Zelda 2. But you know what? This one looks pretty cool. This is actually the first Zelda game where you get to play as the character whose name is in the title, which is very interesting that it took this long. But Echoes of Wisdom looks pretty sweet, I gotta be real. It's really mixing up the Zelda formula. A lot of people kind of assumed that if they made a Zelda where you could play as Zelda, she would just be swinging a sword. And I always thought that would be kind of weird, so I'm glad that she's not. And I mean, I suppose they could have made it so she just swings a wand, and it's just kind of the same thing. You know, where it just kind of works out the same way. But I'm kind of glad that they went for a different thing. This game is all built around echoes, where you'll have like objects and creatures and such that have echoes, and you can use your wand to copy their echoes, and I guess that just like stores it in your inventory basically. And once you have an echo, you can place that echo wherever you want. So they show, like, she kills a moblin or whatever, I don't know all the Zelda enemy names, and then takes its echo, and then now she can walk around and just moblin, and just like summon enemies to fight for her. And you know, she shows like, oh, there's a table, and she copies the echo of the table, and now she has a platform that she can spawn anytime. And this is really interesting, but here's the thing about this mechanic. Is it going to make the puzzles too easy? Right? Like, because That's the thing. They're clearly going for like a Breath of the Wild thing here. Just like Breath of the Wild, we're giving you a tool set. I think I'm gonna sneeze. Give me a second. I think I'm gonna sneeze. I did, in fact, sneeze. My allergies have been absolutely terrible today. I'm so sorry. So, what in God's name was I talking about? Oh yeah, okay, so it's... they're clearly going for like a Breath of the Wild thing here, where it's like, we're giving you this tool set, and you just have to figure out how to solve the puzzles with this tool set. It's not like, it's no longer, we're gonna give you the fire arrows so that you can light torches. It's now like, we're just gonna give you all this stuff, and then when you see a problem, you have to figure out how to solve it. And there's two things about this. One of the examples they showed with this whole thing was Zelda's on a thin path, and there are air currents pushing her both directions, right? And so, like, the first one, she puts a box down, jumps in the box, jumps over the current. Second one, she has like a big, tall, heavy plant that in a pot that she puts down in front of it, and that just blocks the current. In that scenario, I have to ask, why wouldn't I just put a big, heavy plant in front of every single air current? Right? Because that just seems like the obvious, easy solution to the problem. And it's like, if all the solutions are that easy, then is it even a puzzle game? Like, it's very weird. So we're gonna have to see what more of the puzzles are like. And there are actually a few more things I wanted to talk about in regards to this game, but I kind of feel like I'm gonna sneeze again. I did not sneeze this time. I think I might just be allergic to Zelda. I finally started showing a little passion towards talking about a Zelda game, and my body's like, no, 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 get this out of here. All right, so I have a few things I want to ask, and here's the thing. Before I ask this first question, I have to kind of set it up a little bit. Changing the game to be like Breath of the Wild, where you have these tool sets and you have all these tools that can be used to solve multiple problems just depending on your creativity and your ingenuity. That, to me, is a huge boon. That, to me, is like, oh, this is going to be the first 2D Zelda that I love, right? Like, that just appeals to me so much more than the hyper-specific puzzles of Ocarina of Time and stuff, where I'm like, I don't even, like, I don't have any interest to try to figure out what you want from me here, because I don't imagine it's even going to make sense to me when I'm at the end. I don't want to talk ill of this game, because it is probably going to be one of my favorite Zelda games, and I'm definitely gonna give it a try. But I have to ask, should this game be appealing to me? Right, like, I have to ask, is this the right move? Because here's the thing, a lot of Zelda fans don't like Breath of the Wild. A lot of them like the old style of Zelda, where it's structured and you have the specific thing you have to do. And Breath of the Wild blew that apart, which was very refreshing and exciting, but we kind of didn't know that that was going to be replacing the original Zelda thing. That just kind of seemed like the thing they're doing in Breath of the Wild, when in reality, it seems like it's kind of replacing what Zelda was. And so, this is one of those things where I'm a Pokemon fan, and I am watching that series, in my opinion, just absolutely die. Like, open world was like the death blow, where Pokemon now sucks, right? Like, I didn't hate Scarlet and Violet, but they're probably my least favorite generation, because the open world is so bad that I don't really... It has such a bad effect on the game, and I can't believe I'm, like, the only person that I know who's talking about it. Like, everyone else just thinks it's this pure benefit, even though, in my opinion, it, like, literally ruins the design of Pokemon. And so, I want to be the change that I want to see in the game's community. And I'm gonna say, maybe they shouldn't be doing this, right? Like, it's very cool for me and plenty of people, but it's also like, man, the Zelda that the classic fans liked, that they've been enjoying for decades, is seemingly just gone. And that kind of sucks, I'll be honest. I feel really bad for Zelda fans that want a more structured experience. And it's weird to say I think appealing to me is a wrong thing, but like, I kind of feel that way. You know, I would enjoy Metroid severely more if it was linear, or if it had a little companion that said, hey Samus, you should go that way, because that's where the fun part of the game is. That's where you actually get to progress. That would make me enjoy Metroid a hell of a lot more. But Metroid fans would hate that, so they shouldn't do it. You know, like, logically, they should not do that, because it's going to make Metroid fans not like the game. And so I kind of feel the same way about this. Are you just kind of trashing the series for the classic Zelda fan? And I would feel bad if that's the case, which is why I wanted to bring it up. The other question I wanted to ask, though, is Zelda a joke now? Is like, I was thinking about this, and I've actually heard one or two people actually share this sentiment. Zelda was this name that even when, like, I've never liked it, right? I've never been a Zelda fan, but Zelda still had this, like, power. Just the name Zelda had this reverence to it. This is a Zelda game. And now it's a game where you build wacky contraptions and you post clips on Twitter of, I beat this entire boss by dropping 2 kitchen sinks on his head, you know? And it's like, that's funny as a one-time Twitter clip. And if, you know, in like Ocarina, I think there's people that like beat the game with the Deku stick, right? And that's funny, and that's the same kind of idea. But this is building the entire franchise identity around, I built a homemade metal detector and I beat the bad guy in the head with it. So it's like, is Zelda just a meme? Is it just a joke where like it's lost that like dignity that it used to have? Where you used to have Link running down the back of an enemy and stabbing it in the head, and now you have, I'm going to take a bed and slam it into your face like it's WWE. You know, like, I don't know. Like, we'll have to see how the echo mechanic works. We'll have to see how the boss battles are formatted, but those are really the 2 things I took away from this, are just, why is this appealing to me, and is Zelda just becoming kind of a joke? You know, it's a very cool idea that you just give us tools and let us go wild, but it also just kind of lends itself to this silliness that kind of takes away from what Zelda, at least to me, originally was. How cool it was one of the few things I appreciated about it, even when I wasn't really a fan of the games, and I just worry that that's lost. There's also, by the way, I guess I just don't know where else to put this, there's gonna be a gold Switch Lite. There's going to be a gold Zelda-themed Switch Lite, so if you're curious if you're interested in that, if you don't have a Switch Lite yet, you can feel free to go ahead and grab that. Both that Switch Lite and this game will release on September 26th, 2024. I really like that we're kind of getting set up for the rest of the year here. Like, it's not a ton of games, but we got the World Championships game in July. I don't think there's really anything in August, but then you got 2D Zelda in September, you got Mario Party in October, and you got Mario and Luigi in November. So at least the holiday season will kind of be smooth sailing as far as new games are concerned. Yeah, this is such a weird feeling, walking out of Direct saying, I can't wait to play that new Mario Party and a 2D Zelda. Like, I could not possibly have come out of this Direct, like, more different than I went into it, short of enjoying Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. After 5 years since the restarted development, 7 years since the original announcement, we finally get to see an actual glimpse of Metroid Prime 4, and you know what? It looks good. It looks too good. I'm actually a little skeptical that this is actually running on the Switch. I think there is a solid chance that this is actually running on the new console and they're just not telling us. I think there is actually a chance that this game is going to be like Breath of the Wild, where it comes out for old console and new console on new console's release date. I really think there's a chance they're going to do that. And if that's the case, I think this is running on the new console. It looks a little too good. A little too not crusty compared to your average Switch game. And that is kind of the only thing I can review this game on right now, because as you may know, Metroid is like the one Nintendo series that I don't just not care about, but actively dislike. I've tried to enjoy Metroid. I think Samus controls like a dream in the modern games. Like, she's so fun to control in Dread, and it just doesn't matter because the way they set up the structure of the game, I just find to be so ruthlessly unfun that I just can't. I've tried Samus Returns, I've tried Super Metroid, I've tried Dread. I can't enjoy it. I can't enjoy it. I've tried so hard to enjoy it. I've never played Metroid Prime. I assume it's like normal Metroid. I'll have to give it a try, I guess, before Prime 4 comes out, but it is got a slated release date of 2025, and that's all we get for now. And that was the end of the Direct. We ended up going out on Metroid Prime 4, which I think is fine. It's just one of those things where when a Direct is a Zelda game and a Metroid game as its big announcements, I am just naturally not going to be as interested in it, but considering the fact that I do actually want to play the new Zelda game, I think we made out pretty well this time. As I said at the start, it was a pretty normal Direct. I think a lot of us were kind of expecting something big for the Switch to go out on, and it was like, no. That's pretty much it. It's just kind of another normal Direct. It's business as usual. If anything, I actually almost felt like I was expecting more because we had like nothing slated for the rest of the year prior to this direct. It was just like Luigi's Mansion 2 HD and the World Championships game, and I think that was like literally it for the entire rest of this year. So I think I was actually expecting a little more, but it was still fine. If we had had like one of the small franchises, if we could have gotten like Punch-Out or F-Zero or even Donkey Kong, I would throw in there as a kind of smaller franchise. I don't know if does DKC sell well? I don't actually know. But if we could have just gotten like one more little thing like that, I think that would have pushed it over the edge into being something really good. But overall, I think I'd give it like a B or maybe a B+, because the games they did show did look really good, but it was a lot of ports, it was a lot of remasters, it was a lot of third party, and to a lot of people that is enough, but I think for me, I kind of live or die by the first party games. I'm sitting here trying to think of more to say, but I guess that's actually kind of it for the first episode of SilverBytes. If you guys have any sort of feedback you want to give me on this series, please do drop it in the comments. I want to know what you think. As I said before, this is very experimental, and I don't have a tremendous plan. I want this to be a series that's very easy, where I can just kind of sit down for an hour or two and trim it down to 15 to 20 minutes. This one might be long. This will probably be longer than a normal episode because I went through so many different things. We'll see. At the end of the day, the full Wade Silver Show episodes are still going to be what this channel is about. They're still going to be the main focus. They're still going to be what all my effort and time is into. I'm just hoping that this is kind of like, okay, I can take an extra week on the Wade Silver Show episode because I can put something out. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. And if you have any suggestions for games that seem like they might be up my alley, you can always recommend them. You can do that on any video, honestly. I will always take game suggestions, although I really need to get back into just playing games for fun. I have this really bad habit of just, oh, I have free time, it's time to just play more Pokemon replays or Marvel Snap and not play any of the 50 games I've bought and just put on the shelf without playing. Anyway, I guess I'm just rambling at this point. This has been your very first episode of SilverBytes, and I really hope you guys all enjoyed it. I will see you next time.